She thought she was alone. Not the kind of alone that comes from sitting in an empty room, but the kind that lingers even in crowded places, the kind that wraps around your heart when no one really sees you. Every morning, before the city fully woke, before the rush of suits and coffee orders and impatient footsteps, Maya Carter would arrive at the small corner cafe where she worked. She always came early, as if beating the world to the day somehow gave her a head start against everything she was losing. The cafe smelled of roasted beans and warm bread, a comforting scent that never quite reached her soul. She tied her worn sneakers behind the counter, tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, and forced herself into a quiet rhythm of preparation. There was no time to feel tired, no time to feel anything. 2 years ago, Maya had plans. She had been accepted into a university upstate, the first in her family to get that far. She had imagined lecture halls, late-night study sessions, a future shaped by ambition instead of necessity. But life didn't ask for her plans. Her mother fell ill, suddenly and without mercy. Hospital visits replaced campus tours, bills replaced books, and slowly, everything Maya had dreamed of slipped out of reach. Now her world was smaller, a cafe, a cramped apartment, a routine built on survival. Customers came and went, most never noticing her beyond their orders. 1 latte, extra sugar, extra kick, quick. She nodded, smiled politely, handed over cups and disappeared again into the background. To them, or so she believed. Across the street, every morning at nearly the same time, a black car would idle quietly for a few minutes before merging into traffic. Inside sat Daniel Hayes, a man whose name appeared in financial magazines and business headlines. He had built an empire from nothing, turning ideas into millions, decisions into power. People called him brilliant, ruthless, visionary. But none of those words meant much to him anymore, because success had given him everything, except something real to hold on to. That morning, as rain tapped softly against his windshield, Daniel watched the cafe through the glass. He had noticed the girl weeks ago, though he couldn't explain why. There was something about the way she moved, gentle but purposeful, like someone holding herself together by sheer will. Then he saw it. An elderly man stepped up to the counter, his coat thin, his hands trembling slightly as he counted coins. Maya leaned forward, listening patiently. The man hesitated, embarrassed. "I think I'm a little short today," he murmured. Daniel expected the usual, an awkward apology, maybe a refusal, but Maya simply smiled. "It's okay," she said softly. "I've got it." She handed him a warm cup and added a sandwich, wrapping it carefully. The man blinked in surprise. "I can't." "You can," she said, her voice steady but kind. "And you should." He left with gratitude written all over his face. Daniel sat back in his seat, something shifting inside him. It wasn't the act itself, it was how natural it seemed to her. No hesitation, no calculation, just kindness, given freely, as if it cost nothing. But Daniel knew better. Kindness always costs something. Over the next few days, he found himself returning, not entering the cafe, just watching from across the street. And each time, he noticed more. Maya slipping extra food into a delivery bag for a struggling driver. Maya staying late to help a coworker finish cleaning. Maya laughing gently with a child who had spilled hot chocolate everywhere instead of scolding him. She gave and gave, even when it was clear she had little left for herself. And then one evening, something unexpected happened. Daniel had just finished a long meeting and, without thinking, told his driver to stop near the cafe. It was late. The streets were quieter now, the city softened into shadows and dim lights. Through the window he saw Maya again, but this time, she wasn't behind the counter. She sat outside on the curb, her shoulders slumped, her face buried in her hands. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then slowly she looked up, and Daniel saw tears, real ones, the kind that didn't care who was watching. He felt something tighten in his chest. This wasn't the composed girl he had been observing. This was someone breaking quietly when the world wasn't looking. But he was looking. Before he could think himself out of it, Daniel stepped out of the car. Maya didn't notice him at first. She was too lost in whatever storm she was carrying inside. He hesitated, unsure of what to say. He wasn't used to moments like this. He dealt in contracts, negotiations, numbers, not pain. But something pushed him forward. "Rough day?" he asked gently. Maya startled, quickly wiping her face. "I'm fine." she said automatically, her voice small. He almost smiled at that. People always said they were fine when they weren't. Doesn't look like it, he replied. She studied him for a moment, unsure. His suit, his presence, it all felt out of place here. I just have a lot going on, she admitted quietly. He nodded. We all do. There was a pause, then she let out a soft, humorless laugh. Yeah, but some of us don't have the luxury of falling apart. That hit him harder than he expected. Maybe, he said slowly, but sometimes falling apart is the only way things come back together. She looked at him again, this time really seeing him. Why are you talking to me? She asked. It was a fair question. Daniel took a breath. Because I've been watching you. Her expression shifted, confusion, then caution. I don't mean that in a strange way, he added quickly. I pass by every morning. I've seen how you treat people, how you help them, even when it's not your job. She shrugged, looking down. It's not a big deal. It is, he said firmly. You just don't realize it. Silence settled between them, but it felt different now, less heavy. What's your name? He asked. Maya. I'm Daniel. She nodded, as if the name didn't mean anything, and for the first time in a long while that felt refreshing. They talked for a few minutes more, nothing dramatic, just small pieces of life exchanged between two strangers. But for Daniel, it was enough, because for the first time in years, he felt something real. The next morning, everything changed. Maya arrived at work like usual, expecting another day of routine, but her manager called her into the office almost immediately. There's someone here to see you, he said, looking unusually serious. Confused, she stepped inside, and there he was. Daniel. She froze. What are you doing here? He stood, holding a folder. I told you yesterday that what you do matters, he said. I meant it. He handed her the folder. Inside was a letter, an offer, a full scholarship, tuition, housing, everything, funded through one of his foundations. Along with it, a part-time position within his company that would allow her to support her mother while continuing her education. Maya stared at the pages, her hands trembling. I don't understand, she whispered. Daniel smiled gently. You gave without expecting anything in return. This is just someone finally returning the favor. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time, they were different. They're happy tears, she managed. Good, he said softly. Those are the best kind. For a moment, neither of them spoke, and then Maya looked up. Why me? Daniel thought about it. Because you reminded me of something I forgot, he said. That success doesn't mean anything if you're not using it to lift someone else up. She held the letter close as if it might disappear, and in that moment, everything changed. Not just for her, but for him too. Because Maya had thought she was alone, but she wasn't. Someone had seen her, someone had noticed every quiet act of kindness, every moment of strength, every time she chose to give instead of give up. And in the end, that made all the difference. Because the truth is, you're never as invisible as you feel. Kindness leaves a mark. Even when no one seems to notice, it matters. It ripples outward in ways you can't always see. It reaches places you never expect. And sometimes, just sometimes, someone is watching. Not to judge, not to take, but to believe in you when you've almost forgotten how. And when that moment comes, when the world finally reflects back the goodness you've carried all along, it can change everything. Just like it did for Maya, just like it can for anyone. All it takes is one act of kindness and one person willing to see it.